It was just another Tuesday evening, the kind you don't remember a week later unless something breaks, or in this case, something finally cracks. I had just finished work and was in the kitchen, standing in front of the microwave while my dinner spun around in slow, lukewarm circles. Claire was in the living room, legs tucked under her on the couch, typing on her laptop like she was solving some urgent crisis. Every now and then she chuckled to herself, fingers dancing over the keys with a kind of energy I hadn't seen in her for weeks. Not for me, anyway. We lived in a quiet part of Austin. Our house sat just a few blocks from Zilker, a charming little craftsman with a wide front porch and one of those swings Claire always said she'd read more on, but rarely did. It had been my dream home, something I'd saved for through years of late nights and quiet sacrifices. When we moved in 2 years ago, I genuinely believed we were building something lasting here. But lately, something had shifted. Claire had been distant. Not cold exactly, more like curated. Like everything about her had been placed behind glass for display. Her laughter was louder online than it was in our kitchen. Her hugs were quicker. Her phone, once left face up on the counter without a second thought, was now always screen down, passcode on, notifications silenced. I'd noticed it, of course. You don't live with someone for 6 years without picking up the changes. But when I asked, she brushed it off. Just tired, or stress from work, or my personal favorite. You always overthink everything. After a while, you start to believe them, or you pretend to. So there I was, grabbing a bottle of Topo Chico from the fridge when Claire's phone buzzed for what felt like the 10th time that hour. She didn't even flinch. She just kept typing, still locked in that strange, amused concentration. Working on another video? I asked, keeping it light. She didn't look up. Yeah, sketch idea. Divorce comedy stuff. You'll like this one. I nodded, unsure what to make of that. Lately, her content had taken a sharp turn toward sarcastic takes on marriage. She'd always been funny online. Snappy captions, well-edited shorts, but recently, the jokes had started landing closer to home. Videos about husbands who just don't get it, or the drudgery of being trapped with a man who thinks errands count as quality time. A few of them had even gone semi-viral. Claire liked to call it satirical exaggeration. But more and more, the punchlines felt eerily specific. Still, I didn't press. I had work emails to finish, a client pitch to prep. The same routine I'd been running for months while she chased algorithms and hashtags. I microwaved my leftover Thai food and leaned against the kitchen counter, scrolling through my phone in silence while she kept working. Eventually, she got up to take a phone call. I didn't hear what she said, just that familiar fake happy tone she used when she wanted to impress someone. The moment she left the room, her laptop was still open, and that's when I saw it. It wasn't even hidden, just a window left open behind a minimized browser tab. A **T. It was saved on her desktop like she hadn't expected anyone to be looking. The image caught my eye because it was framed neatly, cropped tight around a text exchange. A chat. Instagram DMs, it looked like. Her name was right there in the thread, and the other user's handle was something like @Tyler. Mark 25. And the message? I can't stop thinking about the other night. That was the best night I've had in a long time, face blowing a kiss. Time slowed. My first instinct was disbelief. Some part of me still trusted her that much. I scanned the message again, reading it with the kind of precision usually reserved for legal contracts or prescriptions. The date stamp confirmed what I didn't want to believe. It was from 3 nights ago. I stood there, half holding my drink, staring at the screen as if I could change what I was reading by sheer will. It wasn't just the words. It was the tone, the emoji, the familiarity. That message wasn't part of any script. Before I could take a **T or even decide what to do, Claire walked back into the room. She stopped mid-step when she saw me standing over her laptop. "What are you doing?" she asked sharply, but not nervously. No guilt, just the quick calculation of someone who knew she had to pivot fast. "I was just grabbing a drink," I said, still looking at the screen. "This open on purpose?" She followed my gaze and saw what I'd seen. And for the briefest second, I swear I saw her expression crack. Just a flicker. But then it was gone. "Oh," she said, laughing, a forced, performative kind of laugh. That? Yeah, no, that's a fake DM. It's for a skit I'm writing. I looked at her, deadpan. A skit? Yeah, for the channel. I'm doing this whole thing about fake divorces and over-the-top relationship drama. That message is supposed to be from a character like a cheating wife character. The satire. Like TikTok theater. I didn't respond right away. My gut told me she was lying, but everything about her posture said calm. She opened her laptop all the way, pulled up a folder on her desktop titled Divorce Comedy Skits, and clicked through a handful of docs and thumbnails. There were other *TS, some of them clearly jokes. Messages from a husband character demanding a prenup, or a lawyer offering advice like, just ghost him, girl. They were dumb, sure, but they existed. Enough to create plausible deniability. Still, that didn't explain the tone of the message I saw, or the fact that it was timestamped during one of her late gym nights. I mean, come on, she said, grinning like she was explaining a prank to a confused friend. You seriously thought I'd send that to someone? You don't even recognize the name. Tyler Mark? That's literally the fake guy I use in all my sketches. You should know this by now. I swallowed hard. You've never mentioned him before. She rolled her eyes. God, Rick. Maybe if you actually watched my content? That stung more than I expected. Not because it was true, I did try to keep up with her videos, but because of how quickly she turned the suspicion around on me. Like I was the problem for even asking. She walked back to the couch, closed the laptop, and tossed me a smirk like she just won some game I didn't know we were playing. You should have seen your face, she teased. Don't worry, I won't put that in the sketch. I forced a laugh, but my heart wasn't in it. Not even close. Later that night, as she edited clips on her phone and made jokes about freedom after marriage into her ring light, I sat silently beside her, scrolling through our shared calendar and wondering just how many of her late nights were improv rehearsals, and how many were something else. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to push, but I didn't. Not yet. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure I'd like the answers. After that night, something inside me shifted. Not a dramatic snap. More like a slow, sickening turn. Like watching a glass tip over and not being able to stop it from shattering. I didn't say anything to Claire right away. She went on posting like nothing happened, editing clips in bed while I stared at the ceiling pretending to sleep. The next morning, I told myself I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But belief doesn't work like a light switch. It either lives in your gut or it doesn't. And in my gut, all I felt was cold. The first sign came a few days later, and I don't know how I hadn't noticed it before. I was paying the bills, just skimming through statements, when I saw a charge that didn't make sense. A dinner at a downtown place called Ember and Oak. Pricey. Definitely not our usual Thursday night routine. I pulled up the date. 2 weeks ago. Claire had told me she was working late, then grabbed a smoothie with Carla from her media team. I remembered because she came home buzzing, flushed cheeks and that little too loud laugh that always meant she'd had a cocktail or two. I called out to her from the office. Hey, what's Ember and Oak? She was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. What? This place. On the card. $168? Oh, she said quickly. That was with Carla and Dan from work, post-client dinner. We had to schmooze. I nodded slowly. You didn't mention it. She smiled without looking up. I didn't think I had to file a report. I let it go. What was I supposed to say? That I suddenly didn't trust her with dinner receipts? But from that point on, I started seeing it. The inconsistencies. The gym sessions that ended with hotel parking charges. The text tone she kept on silent. The second phone I spotted once in her tote. Sleek, black, unbranded. And when I asked about it, she shrugged and said it was a backup for recording videos. And the worst part? I nodded. I accepted it. Like a fool. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been there what it feels like to live in the slow-motion unraveling of a marriage. It's not like in the movies. There's no dramatic confrontation, no thunderclap. Just 1,000 paper cuts you convince yourself are accidents until you're bleeding out and don't know when it started. The scarf was the next thing. Claire had this long cream-colored scarf she always wore on cool mornings. One day, I grabbed it off the hook by the door because she forgot it and ran back inside. As I handed it to her, I caught the scent. Something sharp and cologne-heavy. Not mine. Not even close. She noticed me sniffing it and immediately laughed. "Oh my God! Are you smelling my scarf?" I blinked. "It smells like cologne." She rolled her eyes. "I sprayed it with one of those scent samples from Sephora. I didn't like it, but it's better than gym sweat." It didn't smell like Sephora. It smelled like another man. And I hated myself for knowing the difference. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying things in my head, old fights, casual jokes she made in videos. Little moments I'd brushed off as harmless suddenly felt like they were mocking me. There was one video in particular. A reel she'd posted 2 weeks ago. It had racked up over 60K views. She's sitting in the driver's seat of her car, sunglasses on, smiling into the camera. Caption reads, "POV, you realize your husband is just a nice guy, too nice, like PBS nice, and now you're craving chaos." The hashtags? Hashtag wife gone wild. Hashtag suburban survival. Hashtag too much nice, not enough spice. At the time, I laughed with her, or tried to, but rewatching it now, in the dark, while she scrolled beside me with her face lit up by her phone screen, it felt like a gut punch. Was I the joke? Was our life the setup for her punchlines? I kept thinking back to when we first got together. Claire used to talk about how stability was S*XY, how she hated chaos, how her exes were all wannabe wild boys who never texted back or could barely hold a job. She told me I made her feel safe, that I was the kind of man she wanted to build a life with. I built that life. I gave her the stability she claimed she wanted. I made sure her business had a runway when she quit her job to pursue content full-time. Paid off her student loans. Took care of her when she got sick last winter and couldn't get out of bed for a week. And now I was too stable? Too nice? I thought about her new free life skit she posted the morning after I saw the screenshot *T. The timing felt way too convenient. In the video, she's packing a suitcase dramatically while a voiceover says, and then she realized. He always folds the towels. He always plans the date nights. He always asks if she needs gas in her car. And she just wanted to breathe. Then she pretends to throw the suitcase into the street, turns to the camera, and says, "Time to live." The caption? Plot twist. The villain was beige energy all along, with hashtags like hashtag new chapter, hashtag divorce humor, hashtag unpredictable now, hashtag goodbye predictability. And the comments? God, the comments. Women praising her for her bravery. Others calling her a mood. One saying, "OMG, I left my Rick too. It's the best thing I've ever done." Rick, my actual name. Coincidence? I wanted to believe it, but I couldn't. From that moment on, I stopped giving her the benefit of the doubt. I started watching. Not stalking, not spying, just observing. Closely. Quietly. When she said she had a team dinner, I noted the time. When she came home with glitter on her arms, I noticed the shimmer on the back of her phone case. When she said she was too tired for anything but fell asleep smiling at her phone, I watched how quickly she turned it face down when I got up to get water. I thought about confronting her. So many times. But then what? She'd laugh again. Pull up another folder on her laptop. Show me another joke script. She was too good at spinning. Too fast. So instead, I started preparing. Quietly, methodically. I dug through our files. Found the post-nup we signed 2 years ago, her idea, ironically, when her content brand started gaining sponsors. I'd insisted on adding a clause about infidelity, just to protect us both in case things got messy. Claire signed it like it was a joke, called it the anti-romance clause. That clause? It was enforceable. I made copies, scanned receipts, pulled together *TS of every suspicious charge, every hotel bill she never explained. I contacted our old financial advisor to get records of the early investment I'd made into her brand. Money I never asked back for when things took off. Just Rick being Rick, as she'd say. And then I found the final piece. Or rather, it found me. The video dropped on a Thursday afternoon. I hadn't seen Claire that giddy in months. She practically skipped down the stairs, phone in hand, talking to herself in hashtags. "This one's gonna blow up," she said, eyes glued to her screen. "I can feel it. It's got the perfect combo. Spice, snark, and scandal." She wasn't wrong. It was another skit, apparently. One where she played a newly liberated wife, waking up in her chic, chaotic bachelorette pad after finally cutting ties with Mr. Beige Energy. She wore a satin robe, hair tousled just enough to suggest she hadn't slept alone, and held a coffee mug that said alone but not lonely. She winked at the camera and said, "Ladies, don't forget, a little regret is better than a lifetime of predictability." Claire uploaded the clip and tagged it with her usual storm of hashtags. Hashtag fresh start. Hashtag divorce glow up. Hashtag freedom feels like this. Hashtag bye Rick. That last one, hashtag bye Rick, hit different. By the time dinner rolled around, the video had 120,000 views. By midnight, it was over 500,000. Claire was glowing, twirling around the kitchen like she'd just won an award. She said it felt like the universe was finally aligning. What she didn't know was that the universe was aligning, just not the way she thought. I wouldn't have even noticed if I hadn't been tagged anonymously. A burner account sent me a DM. "Yo Rick, your girl really thought she could get away with this? Peep the mirror." The message included a **T from her video. At first glance, it looked like any of her other clips. Well lit, over-edited, overly rehearsed. But in the background, just behind her, in the edge of a floor-length mirror, you could see a reflection. A man, shirtless, lying sideways in bed, scrolling on his phone. Clear as day. His outline was subtle, but there was no mistaking it. The muscular build, the dark hair, the movement, this wasn't some mannequin or a plant or a bad edit. It was real. He was real. And Claire, in all her performative brilliance, had missed it completely. The internet didn't. Within hours, the video went from empowering breakup content to viral scandal. Viewers flooded the comments, pausing the footage at 0:17, zooming in on the reflection, analyzing every pixel. Some defended her. Most didn't. She really said glow up, while another man's in her bed skull. Hashtag free life? Girl, you just freed yourself from credibility. Wait, wasn't this supposed to be satire? The way she never expected us to look that closely. By Friday morning, it was trending on TikTok's For You page under Cheater Exposed. Reaction videos popped up. Memes, think pieces. Even a marriage therapist stitched the clip and called it a masterclass in gaslighting, if the reflection's legit. Claire tried to brush it off. First, she laughed it away. "Y'all need to touch grass," she tweeted. "That's a prop dummy. Ever heard of set design?" But the damage was done. Zoom in close enough and you could see the man blink. Someone even slowed the footage and matched the bedspread pattern to a photo she'd posted weeks earlier, claiming it was her solo comfort night. She backpedaled hard, posting an apology video framed as a comedy commentary on internet overreactions. She blamed the lighting, said the reflection was digitally inserted by someone trying to sabotage her, and even hinted that the video may have been deep-faked by trolls. It didn't work. Her followers turned. Brands ghosted her. A haircare company pulled its campaign the same day. The wellness app she promoted every week posted a quiet update saying they do not condone deceptive behavior. By Saturday, her manager, who she used to call her PR ninja, unfollowed her publicly. Claire cried that night. Not over me, not even over the affair, but over the cancel mob, as she called it. "This is insane," she whispered as she scrolled through the hate. "They're acting like I murdered someone. I didn't say anything. I just watched." It wasn't about the reflection anymore. It was about the layers, the facade collapsing, the illusion breaking down in real time. And while she spiraled online, I got to work. No outbursts, no big confrontation. I didn't scream or pack my bags or throw things. Instead, I opened the safe in the hallway closet, the one she forgot existed, and took out the neatly organized file I'd been building for weeks. I reviewed the post-nup again. It was airtight. It clearly outlined that in the event of infidelity, the guilty party forfeited claims to shared property, including the house. I had the receipts, the emails, the footage, the bank records, Claire's signature, dated and notarized. Then came the property transfer documents, something I'd initiated when I first started suspecting things. Quietly shifting our joint business licenses into my name, moving funds into protected accounts, redirecting the LLC that had initially been formed in her name into a structure where I owned controlling interest through a chain of shell entities. All legal, all traceable. When Claire's brand blew up last year, she begged me to help her incorporate. I did. I just did it smarter than she knew. I also had records, cold, unforgiving records, of the financial bailout I gave her 2 years ago when her content wasn't paying rent. Back then, I pulled money from my retirement just to make sure she didn't default on a personal loan. She promised to pay it back. She never did. Now I had it all itemized, categorized, PDF'd. And when I spoke with my attorney, I didn't even need to finish the sentence before he said, "You'll walk away clean, maybe more than clean." I wasn't doing this to ruin her. I wasn't out for revenge. I was doing this to reclaim the parts of myself I had given so freely while she laughed in front of a camera, pretending I was nothing more than content fodder. Then came the part one didn't expect to hurt as much as it did. Telling her father. Claire's dad had always liked me, the kind of old-school, iron-willed man who believed in handshakes and Sunday visits. He'd pulled me aside the day I proposed and said, "If you ever hurt her, I'll deal with you myself. But if she ever forgets what she has, you call me first." I did. I emailed him everything. Not with anger, just with clarity. He called me that night. His voice was quiet, broken. "She told me it was performance art," he said. I wanted to believe her. "I did too," I replied. The next morning, Claire's father posted a public message, not naming her, but unmistakably about her. Some mistakes damage more than one life. Some betrayals leave scars on entire families. Respect is earned and lost. That post got shared more than her last 3 videos combined. Claire saw it. She didn't say anything. She just locked herself in her office and cried behind a ring light that was still turned on. By Sunday, Claire had disappeared from her own social media. Not officially, her accounts were still up, but the posts had stopped. No videos, no reels, no morning freedom updates, or hashtagged affirmations. The light had gone out of her brand almost overnight. She spent most of that day curled up on the couch with a blanket and her phone, doom-scrolling in silence. I watched from the doorway, not saying a word. There was nothing to say. She was unraveling, and for once, I wasn't the one trying to keep her together. It had only been 3 days since the viral video incident, but the fallout was hitting hard and fast. Influencer gossip accounts were now running entire timelines of Claire's photo-divorce saga. Some even compared her to other disgraced online personalities who tried to turn personal scandals into clickbait. Only hers wasn't staged. This was real. Her divorce skit excuse fell apart the moment receipts started circulating. DM screensh *TS. Location tags that didn't match her content shoots. And even an anonymous source from her content team who claimed, "None of us knew what was real anymore." She kept changing the story. Worse, her sponsorships dried up almost instantly. Emails came in from PR reps and brand managers, some curt, others polite but firm. "We are pausing our campaign indefinitely. Given recent developments, we'll be terminating our collaboration effective immediately. We value transparency and integrity. Best of luck in your next chapter." Claire stared at these messages like they were death notices. And maybe, to her, they were. The real blow came when her sisters, 2 of whom had helped film her satire content, posted a joint video titled, "Why We're Done Supporting Claire." I watched it alone in the guest room, earbuds in. Their tone was somber, not angry, just done. We believed Claire. We believed that this was all just performance. But after what's come to light, the manipulation, the dishonesty, the way she treated people close to her, we can't stay silent. We're stepping away from the content. We're stepping away from her, for now. This isn't who we thought she was. Claire didn't even finish watching it. She turned the video off 30 seconds in and slammed her phone face down on the table. She's being dramatic, she muttered, her voice hollow. They're just scared of getting canceled too. I didn't respond. I couldn't tell if she was trying to convince me or herself. Her father stopped calling. When she finally worked up the courage to call him, he let it ring through to voicemail. She left a message I overheard from the hallway. Something about this being a misunderstanding, and how Rick took everything out of context. I almost laughed. The irony of me taking things out of context after everything she'd posted was too much to ignore. Later that evening, I printed out the final set of documents. The legal filings, the bank notifications, the official copy of the postnup with annotations from my lawyer. I placed them all in a manila folder, labeled clearly, Claire, final copy. I set the folder on the dining table where she couldn't miss it. When she walked in and saw it, she stopped in her tracks. What's this? I didn't look up from my coffee. Just closure. She picked it up like it might bite her. Flipped through the pages, eyes widening with each section. This isn't fair, she said finally. You're seriously doing this? You're really using that clause? I didn't write the clause, I said. You agreed to it. But we were married. That was supposed to be symbolic. No, I said calmly. The vows were supposed to be symbolic. The paperwork was real. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, just release. This was all a joke to you, I added quietly. And now the punchline's here. She didn't speak for a while. She just stood there, holding that folder like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Then she sat down slowly, like her legs could no longer hold her up. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. I thought it would blow over. I finally met her eyes. It didn't blow over. It blew up. And now there's nothing left to hide behind. It was the first time she didn't have a comeback. No clever quip. No redirection. Just silence. Over the next few days, things moved quickly. Claire's audience had not only turned on her, they'd buried her. The comment sections were merciless. Even the few fans who tried to defend her were drowned out by others quoting her own videos back to her, line by line. You said you were free. Turns out you were just fake. Can't wait for the next skit. Living with consequences. Some even dug up old videos where she joked about loving the attention more than the man behind the camera. In hindsight, they weren't jokes at all. As she faded offline, I stepped back into my own life with a kind of cautious peace. I filed the final paperwork. The house, the accounts, the business assets, everything had already been secured under my name. Thanks to her breach of the infidelity clause, she had no legal claim to any of it. She tried to negotiate once, brought up the emotional toll, said she deserved some kind of severance after all the work she'd put into the brand. I told her the severance was not losing everything in court. She didn't bring it up again. Her reputation crumbled faster than either of us expected. By the end of the month, her name was practically radioactive. Sponsorship offers dried up entirely. One of her major past collaborators even published a blog post titled, "The Hidden Narcissism of Social Media Fame." What I learned from working with Claire. The piece included private DMs, non-confidential, legally public, where she mocked her audience, mocked me, and admitted to staging emotional meltdowns for engagement. She even joked about filming a fake proposal, just to milk the sympathy clicks. It was all there in black and white. After that, no one wanted to touch her brand. The final humiliation came from her father. A week after everything settled, he sent out a holiday email to family and close friends, something he did every year. This year's message read, "As we gather this season, I want to remind everyone that integrity matters more than image. The people who smile in photos may not be smiling in truth. Let's hold our loved ones accountable, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then." Claire wasn't mentioned by name. She didn't have to be. She read it while sitting across from me in silence. Her face didn't change. She just closed her laptop and said nothing. I moved out the following week. Quietly. No goodbye speech. No final fight. Just a note on the kitchen counter. You always wanted freedom. Now you have it. Whatever comes next, own it. I'm done cleaning up after someone else's mess. R. She never responded. She couldn't. By then, she was already alone. Her sisters stopped answering her texts. Her content group chat went dead. One by one, the pillars of her online empire vanished. Even her last backup plan, a potential book deal, was pulled after the publisher decided to reassess based on recent developments. By all accounts, she had everything she wanted. The attention, the narrative, the freedom, but the applause had stopped. And without an audience, Claire didn't seem to know who she was. Meanwhile, I was finally figuring out who I was without her. Not Rick, the husband. Not Rick, the punchline. Just Rick. Free. The first morning after I moved out, I didn't know what to do with the silence. No ring light humming in the corner. No passive-aggressive TikTok monologues floating in from the next room. No half-laughed insults disguised as jokes. Just quiet. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was the first real breath I'd taken in months. I was staying in a short-term rental for the time being. 2 bedrooms, clean lines, nothing on the walls. The kind of place that hadn't absorbed anyone's history yet. A blank space. That's what I needed. I brought very little with me. A few clothes, my books, my laptop, and one framed photo of my parents from their 30th anniversary. The kind of love I used to think I had found. What I didn't bring with me. Anything from the life I had with Claire. No wedding album. No anniversary cards. Not even the coffee mugs we used to joke were his and hers. I left it all in the house that legally now belonged to me, but spiritually felt like hers. Let her be surrounded by the things she ruined. I didn't need them anymore. For the first few days, I kept expecting some dramatic gesture. Claire showing up at my door. A handwritten apology. Some grand monologue about redemption or clarity or therapy. But nothing came. What came instead were rumors. Friends I hadn't heard from in ages started texting again. Some just offering support. Some pretending they always knew she was off. I didn't entertain the gossip, but I listened. Apparently, she tried launching a rebrand, something called From the Ashes, where she talked about navigating betrayal and finding truth through loss. People weren't buying it. The comments were brutal. Girl, you are the betrayal. From the ashes of the empire you set on fire. She really said, I cheated on my husband and lost everything. Now let me inspire you. She deleted the series after 3 posts. Then came the interview. Some B-list podcast run by a clout-chasing influencer gave her a platform. Claire leaned into the misunderstood artist angle, saying things like, people didn't get what I was doing. Everything online is a performance. So why was mine criminal? I didn't cheat. I experimented with narrative boundaries. Narrative boundaries. I listened to 5 minutes before shutting it off. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I just didn't recognize her. The Claire I married had dreams. Kindness. She used to care about people before she cared about platforms. Somewhere along the way, the audience became more important than the partner. The clicks became louder than the vows. That podcast went viral too, but not in the way she wanted. She became a meme. The phrase narrative boundaries trended on Twitter for 2 days. People used it to mock everything from cheating to bad movie plots to failed pyramid schemes. Claire disabled comments. Again, by month's end, she went fully dark. No uploads, no interviews, no comeback trailer. Just silence. I suppose that's when I really knew it was over, not the relationship. That had ended long before either of us admitted it. But the spell she'd held over me, over everyone. She wasn't some mastermind. She wasn't even a villain. She was just someone who couldn't stop performing, even when the audience walked out. I rebuilt slowly, started small, changed my number, reconnected with old friends. Once Claire had quietly nudged out of my life with subtle comments like, he's a bit much, or, she doesn't really get our lifestyle. They welcomed me back without hesitation. Funny how the people I'd put second never made me feel like I was last. I went back to therapy. Not couples therapy. Just me. For me, the first session was awkward. I didn't know how to describe what had happened without sounding like a tabloid headline. But the therapist, Angela, just listened. She said something that stuck with me. When someone makes a public identity out of your private life, they're not just cheating on you with another person. They're cheating on your reality. That hit harder than I expected. Claire hadn't just betrayed me in secret. She'd made me a character, rewritten our love story into a comedy sketch, mocked stability, painted loyalty as weakness, and used my face as a stand-in for everything wrong with men who don't cause chaos. I told Angela that some nights I felt humiliated all over again, not because of the affair, but because I had believed in her so fully. I had defended her, protected her, laughed at her jokes, even when they were about me. Angela didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "You weren't stupid. You were committed. There's a difference." 3 months after I left, I got a package in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Claire. Inside was a single item, her wedding ring. No letter, no note, just the ring, tucked into a small velvet pouch. The same pouch I gave her the day I proposed. I didn't feel a surge of emotion, no wave of closure, just a sense of completion. I took it out once, looked at it under the light, and then quietly placed it in the back of a drawer. A relic, nothing more. Today things feel normal, not perfect, but steady and honest. I'm working again, really working without distraction. I joined a weekly running group, not to race, just to move. I picked up an old hobby Claire always called too boring, woodworking, and found calm in turning scrap into something useful. I even started dating again. Nothing serious, no grand declarations, just slow conversations with people who ask questions and actually listen to the answers. People who don't film their vulnerability for engagement. I don't compare them to her. I don't carry the bitterness into new rooms. But I do carry the lessons. When someone jokes about their partner constantly, I pay attention. When someone shares more with their followers than they do with the person beside them, I remember.